They said it would never happen. They said these two men were too different, too proud, too dangerous to ever stand on the same side of anything. And yet, right there, after the cameras stopped rolling on Monday Night Raw, something happened that nobody in that building, nobody backstage, and nobody watching at home could have predicted in a million years. Oba Femi, the dominant, cold-blooded, calculating force of nature who has been dismantling every single obstacle placed in front of him, reached down and pulled Seth Rollins back from the edge of destruction. If this is your first time joining us, I encourage you to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to always get updates. Welcome to Backstage Wrestling News, where we don't just report the story, we go deeper than anyone else dares to go. Now let me be crystal clear about something before we dive all the way in. What you saw on camera during Raw was already shocking enough. Seth Rollins had been decimated. He had been left in a heap by forces that have been systematically targeting him for weeks. The man who once called himself the Visionary, the man who reinvented himself multiple times, who climbed back from injuries that would have ended lesser careers, who looked the most dangerous people in this business dead in the eye and refused to blink. That man was on his back, staring up at arena lights, with nothing left to give. And that is when Oba Femi's music hit. The arena went from zero to absolutely electric in about 2 seconds flat. Because nobody, and I mean nobody, had a single reason to expect Oba Femi to come down that ramp for Seth Rollins. These are not friends. These are not allies. These are not men who have shared locker room space and built a bond over shared enemies. If anything, the tension between these two has been simmering beneath the surface for months, because they both operate in that same space, that dangerous, unpredictable space where ego meets unmatched physical ability, and where the wrong look from the wrong person on the wrong night can turn into something ugly very, very fast. But he came down. He stood over Seth Rollins, and he made a choice that changed everything. Here is your first trivia question of the video. Drop your answer in the comments section right now. How many times has Seth Rollins held the WWE World Heavyweight Championship throughout his career? Let's see who really knows their history. Comment below. Now here is where it gets truly interesting. And this is the part that the cameras did not show you. Our sources backstage, people who were in that building after Raw went off the air, people who were in those corridors and had eyes and ears in places the production trucks don't reach, are telling us that what happened between Oba Femi and Seth Rollins after that moment was far more significant than anyone has been willing to publicly acknowledge. When Rollins was helped to the back, Oba Femi did not just disappear into his own corner of the locker room and go about his business like it was a casual Tuesday. According to what we've been told, Femi actually sought out Rollins in the medical area, not to posture, not to make a power statement, not to remind Seth who the dominant force in that building was, but to talk. To actually talk. And the conversation that reportedly took place in that medical room after Raw is the kind of conversation that sends shockwaves through an entire roster when word gets around. And trust me, word always gets around. You have to understand what Oba Femi represents in WWE right now. This is not just a big man who showed up and started throwing people around. Femi is intelligent. Femi is patient in the way that truly dangerous people are patient. He doesn't move until the moment is exactly right, and when he does move, it is precise and it is devastating and it leaves no room for argument. He has watched the landscape of WWE with those cold, calculating eyes, and he has been piecing together a picture that perhaps nobody else has been willing to see as clearly as he does. And what he apparently told Seth Rollins in that medical room after the dust settled is that the thing hunting Seth Rollins is the same thing that Oba Femi has been quietly positioning himself against for some time now. That the forces targeting the Visionary are not random. They are not opportunistic. They are organized. They are directed. And they represent a threat that neither man, even at his absolute best, can dismantle alone. Seth Rollins, according to people close to the situation, did not immediately agree with Femi. Because of course he didn't. This is Seth Rollins. The man who walked into hell in a cell alone. The man who faced the Shield, faced the Authority, faced Brock Lesnar, faced the most terrifying version of Roman Reigns in his prime, and always insisted on doing things on his own terms. Seth's entire identity is built around the idea that he is the one who solves problems. He is the architect. He is the visionary who sees 5 steps ahead when everyone else is staring at step 1. But here is the brutal truth that Seth Rollins is reportedly grappling with right now. And this is the part that should make your blood boil if you are a fan of this man. The visionary has been going blind. Whatever is targeting him has been hitting him in ways he did not see coming. And that is the most terrifying thing that can happen to a man who built his reputation on seeing everything coming before it arrives. So when Oba Femi, a man with nothing to gain from saving Seth Rollins, a man with no political motivation, no storyline obligation, no reason to put himself in anybody else's business, makes the specific choice to not only intervene on Raw, but then actively seek out a private conversation backstage, you have to ask yourself the most important question in professional wrestling right now. What does Oba Femi know that the rest of us don't? Trivia question number 2, and this one is for the real ones. What was the name of Oba Femi's finishing maneuver that he used to dominate the NXT landscape before his main roster call-up? Drop your answer in the comments, and let's see who was paying attention. Let's talk about what this alliance, if we can even call it that yet, actually means for the balance of power on Monday Night Raw. Because when you put Seth Rollins and Oba Femi in the same orbit, you are not just creating a partnership. You are potentially creating the single most dangerous combination of ring intelligence and physical dominance that Raw has seen in years. Seth Rollins knows every shortcut, every counter, every psychological trick this business has ever produced. He has been in every kind of match, against every kind of opponent, in every kind of environment that WWE creates. His experience is encyclopedic and his adaptability is unmatched. Oba Femi, on the other hand, is something that experience and intelligence cannot fully prepare you for. Because Raw physical dominance at that level, the kind where opponents genuinely look smaller and weaker and slower even when they are not, operates on a completely different frequency than strategy. Femi does not need to outthink you. He needs to put his hands on you once, and the conversation is over. He is the kind of force that changes the math of every situation he enters simply by being present. Together, these two men would represent something that should keep every faction, every opportunist, every power-hungry force in WWE awake at night with genuine anxiety. But, and this is where the story gets complicated, and this is why the backstage reaction has been so divided. Not everyone in that locker room is viewing this development with fear. There are people, influential, well-connected, strategically placed people, who are reportedly viewing the prospect of a Rollins-Femi alliance as a problem that needs to be stopped before it fully forms. Before the handshake is made official. Before these two men walk out on Raw side by side and announce to the entire WWE Universe that they are standing together. Because stopping Seth Rollins is difficult. Stopping Oba Femi is nearly impossible. But stopping them before they have fully committed to each other? That window is narrow, but it exists. And there are forces in WWE who are looking through that window right now and calculating their next move very, very carefully. The timing here cannot be overlooked either. We are at a point in the WWE calendar where the stakes for every major championship and every major rivalry are escalating at a pace that does not leave room for error. The roster landscape is shifting almost weekly. Alliances that seemed permanent are cracking. Enemies that seemed eternal are finding common ground. And in that kind of unstable, volatile environment, a sudden, unexpected partnership between two elite-level competitors does not just affect their individual trajectories. It sends ripple effects through every existing dynamic on that roster. Think about what it means for the championship picture. Think about what it means for the factions currently operating on Raw. Think about what it means for every individual who has had either Rollins or Femi on their radar as a future obstacle or a future opportunity. The entire chessboard just got flipped sideways, and now everybody has to recalculate. And here is the thing that nobody is saying out loud right now, but absolutely needs to be said. This did not happen in a vacuum. Oba Femi is not a man who makes impulsive decisions. Every action he takes is deliberate. Every step he makes is measured. So the fact that he chose this moment, not last week, not 3 weeks ago, not at a pay-per-view with the whole world watching, but on a regular Monday night when the cameras were going dark, to make his move tells you something critical about what he knows and what he is preparing for. He picked the moment when the gesture would be most meaningful but least scrutinized, when Seth Rollins would be most vulnerable and therefore most receptive, when the people who needed to see it would see it, and the people who needed to not see it would be caught off guard. That is not the action of a man who is reacting emotionally to a situation. That is the action of a man who has been waiting for the right circumstances and finally saw them arrive. Seth Rollins, for his part, has not said anything publicly. No social media, no interview, no cryptic message delivered through a promo on Raw. He has been completely silent since that night, which, if you know Seth Rollins, is itself one of the loudest statements he can possibly make. Because Seth Rollins always has something to say, the man is never short of words or confidence or the desire to put his perspective on record. His silence right now is intentional. His silence right now is strategic. And his silence right now is telling. Because what do you say when the thing that just saved you is also the thing you were most convinced you would eventually have to go through? What do you say when the alliance you never wanted turns out to be the alliance you desperately needed? What does the visionary say when the vision he was so proud of turns out to have had a massive blind spot, and the man who stepped into that blind spot and protected him from it is the last person on earth he expected to be standing there? You say nothing. You process. You evaluate. And then, when the moment is right, when you have figured out exactly what this is and exactly what it could become, you make your move. And knowing Seth Rollins, when that move comes, it will be perfectly timed, perfectly executed, and absolutely impossible to ignore. The question that every single person watching WWE right now should be asking is not whether Seth Rollins and Oba Femi will formally align. The question is what happens to Monday Night Raw, to the championships, to the factions, to every rival and every enemy these two men have individually accumulated on the night that they do. Because that night is coming. Every sign points to it. Every source we have is pointing to it. And when it arrives, the wrestling world is going to look completely different on the other side. Stay locked into Backstage Wrestling News, because we will be here the moment anything breaks, with everything you need to know before anyone else has the courage to say it. Don't forget to drop your answers to both trivia questions in the comment section. Share this video with every wrestling fan you know. And if this story fired you up the way it should, let us know in the comments what you think this alliance ultimately leads to. We read every single one. This is Backstage Wrestling News. We'll see you in the next one.